Hello and welcome to the first discussion of Destiny's Conflict. This is the 10th book in the Wars of Light and Shadow series by Janny Wurts. I cannot believe we have made it this far. It feels like we just started, although it's been about 2 years. And this is the second last book in the series. So we are, about four discussions away from getting to the end. Uh, with me, of
Ah,
course. Sorry, before I do that, were you saying something, Chris? No, just
no, I was
expressing.
just expressing shock and
Oh, yes.
awe at the
Yes.
fact that we are getting to the end. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I'm both happy and sad about it because I've heard
Hmm.
so many great things about that last book. Need to get to it, but it's getting to the end. Um, what was I saying? Yes, we're discussing chapters 1 to 4 today. That's the plan, and then the rest of the book is a multiple of three, the number of chapters left. So we'll do three chapters for every discussion after. I think we have a total of four discussions. There are 13 chapters, if I remember correctly. With all
Correct.
that said, everybody will introduce themselves now. Jared, could you start us off?
Certainly. Jared, the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and also on Speculation podcast, and film chewing and panel chewing, and other podcasts on pagechewing.com.
Very nice. Chibipo.
Hello, I am Chibi Po, and I am the purveyor of, reading, Jenny's finest works and lurking around in all kinds of places. And I'm great to be here.
Very nice. And
You're
to
all
no
great
one's
to have me here.
surprise, Chris.
Yes, my name's Chris from the Chronicle Chris YouTube channel, and also purveyor of all of the discussions and podcasts related to page June, as Jared had laid out for me. It almost feels like whoever goes first between us two, we always go. I did the same things as most of them.
All of those things.
Most of them. Panel
Most of
June
them.
is the only one I'm missing off, I think, at the moment. There you go.
Oh, yeah, the comic book one. Right. Yes.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, then let's get started. We pretty much pick up where we left off at the end of the last book. Lysa was vaguely kidnapped by Daliana and Dakar at the end. So he wakes up groggy and angry to find out where he is, to no one's surprise. And some interesting offers are made in this chapter. Jared, take it away.
Well, first thing I would like to say is I appreciated the little wrap up before the book even started. I kind of like that. Really, like just bullet pointing stuff you needed to know, and then we hop right back into the story where we left off from our the last book, and yeah, very very interested. We're starting out with a Sanders oath, and like you said, Lysaea waking up groggy and under Daliana in Dakar's control. I think, didn't they like knock him out again?
Yeah, they kept doing that for a bit.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, are we bordering on concussion territory here? Because
he's the Lord of the Light. He's got Davian's fountains, healing powers. He'll be fine. Just put him out.
That's correct. Yeah, you're right there. You're right.
Not that they knew it when they were banging him out every time.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jared, go ahead.
No, that's that. You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. And yeah, she mentions Daliana mentions that once again she reminds Dakar that she's wearing a Sander's mark, and that she's yelling. They're arguing, and she's like telling them, "Your former master's ward wasn't infallible," and I found that a interesting observation there. And he tells her that the actions that they might be withholding under some abstruse ethical preference that they might not always be doing what's in her best interest. Just so you're aware, there, Daliana.
Mhm.
And Dakar has a really horrible plan to uh, get Lysair under control. I don't remember what it was, but
Oh, I knew. I
oh yeah,
underlined it. It was because it's very interesting here that Dakar wants to put some kind of compulsion on
oh
Lysaea,
right,
Mm.
and
oh
I was
yeah,
just like, wait a minute. So Dakar is um, proposing this compulsion to control Lysair and keep him out of. He's doing it in the name of keeping him out of harm's way and
Mhm.
stuff like that, and not having the curse reactivate and all that stuff. But I'm just like, how is that any kind of different than the compulsion that the Coriathane
Yes.
practice? And I was just like, you're going down a slippery slope there, Dakar.
yeah. But interestingly, what he wants to do is what Asandir did to him, right? Which was he's free to choose, but bad things will happen if he doesn't choose what Asandir wanted. Which I mean, the Korea thing explicitly like force you to make such certain decisions, even if you're fighting against it. But it is definitely a slippery slope. But uh, my question, where what I want to get to with that is I don't remember if their reasoning for why this is okay to do to Lysair is that he's outside the bounds of the compact, so they're not obliged to give him free will. But does that? But then what was up with like Asandir and Dakar? How was Asandir able to compel
Mm.
Dakar in that way? So I don't. I'm guessing that's not why it is okay to do this to Lysair, but it seems to be some strange territory that it's okay to do within the bounds of the compact because Asandir did this to Dakar before.
Yeah. It's I suppose it's consistent with the world, if you know what I mean. These are powers that exist within the world, and motivations are the bit that the reader decides whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, really, at the end of the day. And I think with the whole series being around the premise that not all dark and shadow is bad, and not all things that appear as they are given or
Right.
as they seem,
Yeah.
because it's not the last time that Dakar does this kind of trickster thing. He's sort of like he's got his Davian poster on his wall, maybe once it's been broke free, and he's treading his own path here, and he's thinking, "There's my hero." I
Yeah.
like how his moves go, and he thinks,
Yes.
"I," because he definitely does. He's been freed from the shackles. We talked about this last time in Initiate's trial, to kind of impose himself rather than being the person that trudgingly goes along with whatever plan has been set out for him. There's
Yeah.
probably nobody else in the books that has a less agency than Dakar. In a lot of ways,
Yeah.
because he's always,
Yeah.
whether his own visions or something else, he has always felt compelled to do something. So this is quite an interesting turn for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Sorry, slight deviation. Well, it's not slight, but you're listening to the audiobook too, right, Chris? And TV, I don't know if you've listened to the audiobook for this one, but I was curious what you thought of the voices because the audiobook narrator's voice is really deep. So all the characters have at least a little bit of depth to their voice. And I was not prepared. I that is not not that I actually pictured the voice in my head. Like but whatever the voices they got wasn't what I was expecting, especially Dakar got this really deep, serious feeling voice, and I'm like, no.
Yeah. The cars was the one that jarred me as well. I was okay with most of the other ones. Sethfear's a little bit whatever, and to be honest, a lot of them can become indistinct from each other in a little bit. But Dakar's voicing was definitely one I was like, this doesn't seem right. but maybe it does fit because he is
Yeah,
a portly man, and
that's true. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I'm sort of warming to it now, but as it started, because I mean, it's not like this is not how I imagine it because it didn't even occur to me to imagine voices. But when I heard it, I was like, I don't know about that. Cool. So yeah, so Davian comes to the rescue. Daliana says, "Nope, I'm not going to compel him that way." And Davian says, "I agree with you. Let's do this other thing instead." which is to turn her into a man, which is pretty cool. I didn't know he could do that. I mean, it's Davian, and he turned himself into an eagle, so that makes sense.
Shapeshifting, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know he could do that. Yeah, I love that. I love that statement because that's one of those things where you think I didn't know he could do that, but you could have guessed it if you really thought
Mm.
about it at length in an earlier time when he's doing all this other shape shifting and stuff, and so, but the fact that he can do it to somebody else, obviously, it was with her permission. Um, so that also brings up the these questions that keeps running through the whole series is permissions to get things done, uh even if the permission is given under duress or if it's given um with a lack of understanding of the consequences and stuff like that. But it still seems to be an important aspect to all these things and some of the magic that how it works in this world and stuff like that. And so when you get to a section where permission is not granted, um, it just makes it seem that much more, you know, evil or insidious or what have you. And it just that's why it surprised me so much that Dakar went there because he's been a victim of some of this stuff. These compulsory, um, this compulsory, having to do stuff because of other people. And so I don't know if that's just if he's damaged psychically and he's just reenacting what he has felt and known over his 1,000 years of life or however long he's been alive. And but he didn't, he was thwarted though. She said no. Daliana said no, you can't do that to my boy. And so he wasn't insistent to the point where he would defy somebody else's wishes like that. But still, it was very interesting conversation.
Yeah, certainly. And it seems that Dakar is very squarely in the this is for the greater good camp, right? Like make some difficult decisions, much like everybody else who justifies their decision making, except maybe the true sect people. I can't get behind theirs. This one is yeah, I almost get where Dakar is coming from. It's like he sees how horrible it is what he has to do, but like he's like, yeah, I'll do this unpalatable thing because I think I'm going to save something. And then Davian's like, nope, I've seen the future. That will mess everything up, so don't do it. And yeah.
So, so then there's a little interesting section in the next section, Pitfall. We see there's this big problem with criminal activity in Havish, and she points this out. Obviously, that'll lead up to Arathon, saving the woman from predators, human predators, two-legged predators, specifically pointed out, and there's but the very fact that there is this underlying criminal problem. There's a lot of banditry going on. There's a lot of just highway waylaying and what have you, and merchants are having a hard time getting goods from one place to the other without getting harassed. That points to a problem with the society right now at the time, and you gotta figure that's due to the turmoil caused by the lights. What are these people called again? I can't remember now.
The true sect.
Yes. And their agenda is not a stable agenda for a society right now. And I think that was just an interesting societal look into what's going on in Havish and other surrounding kingdoms.
Yeah, it
Sorry, go ahead.
it does talk about, and it actually comes through, I think, in subsequent chapters about how single issue the true sect are in a lot of ways. They're not. It's not
Right.
like earlier on in the book. I think if you compare it to the light, the alliance of the light that there was before, that it was a very prosperous place. That it was very, there was
Right.
stability actually got garnered by that. Even though their aim was to use that wealth, that accumulated wealth, to go and destroy Shadow and all of that kind of stuff, but it was talked over and over again about how good society was and how people were happy with how well society was going. People got rich, people were well fed, all of that kind of stuff. Whereas now everything's very destabilized and everything's very fragmented. For sure, it's a good point.
Yeah. So Ilera watches Arathon rescue a woman in trouble who has presumably been raped, uh,
Yep.
and then he goes to find her and tries to save her. And Ilera has a brief thought about why there's this random person traveling here, and why is Arathon not stopping to question that before saving him. But like Ilera in a previous scene where it's like, save them now, ask questions later, Arathon also did the same thing. Is like, I'm gonna go help this guy and help this person, who goes on to make excuse after excuse after excuse that he swallows, but unwillingly. But yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and that that has its own complications later on in further chapters. And
Oh, and they go to the hut that Ilera does it happen in this chapter, or was that later? Or not yet. I think that was later chapter. The hut that Ilera was in, the lure or whatever it was that Hatchet put on him. No, that maybe I forget who did this, but at some point he started following Ilera's uh trail, or like whatever. He was trying to find Ilera, and so he came to the hut where she was before, but she had cleansed it, but there was one tiny crystal left behind from, I guess, the ships of Merior time, when she was forced to do something against her will and win his love and cheat him about it.
I thought, and I could be wrong, but I thought that was the trap that was then inserted there. If you know what I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
to see. So I'm not sure it was existing there or whether it was placed after the fact.
Yeah, I thought that this woman may have put it there because did she? Did they go there together, or did she find refuge there and Arathon followed her there?
Yeah, well, she was skulking in the shadows, wasn't she? When
Yeah,
he got into that kind of scene, he was looking for
yeah,
Alara, and
yeah,
then she came out from the shadows.
yeah,
From there, so either she followed him or she found refuge there. So it could have been placed by Vivette, surely.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought she may have placed it there because, I mean, so many horrible, creepy things that the matriarch is up to now. One, she's copied Ilera's crystal and she can do whatever she wants with those things. Apparently, she created a shard of it that had a very specific piece of information that she could use to entrap Arathon. And she made Vivette look like or feel like Ilera, like she had some sort of her aura, which Arathon, I guess, unwittingly also got lured by or seduced by, maybe. I don't know.
mm, yeah, yeah, and that yeah, we'll get to a bunch of that in later chapters, but yeah, you kind of got the feel that there was something up with this whole situation, and it was reaffirmed later on that she's a pawn of the Korea thing, and I, I'm kind of interested to see where we're gonna go from this point, because he's trapped in he trapped in this marriage now, basically, and it's for like, was it 12 years or something like that? I'm kind of wondering if we're gonna be skipping ahead 12 years, or if we're gonna be, um, or if there's gonna be some action taken by Cossacks and Terrans to break this up or what have you. Uh, I don't know. I'm just like trying to guess what's going to happen because Terrans is they're talking about going into these tribal hills, which I found interesting that there were like these separate unrelated tribes that were just on their own. They don't seem to have the same relation to the clans that
they're almost painted as fanatics in some ways. They've got such old customs and such old outdated ways that they are just crazy men in the hills in some ways. Which we do get a sense of when Arathon goes there, again shrouded in mystery, and you have to come with me and protect me, and we know there's another agenda coming, and we're sort of given forewarning by Sephir, I think it is, in one of the interspersed, like Saletti has a new plan that's worse than any other ones she's ever come up with before, which is happens every 3 or 4 chapters throughout the entire series, as far as I'm concerned.
When you need it to... Where is that cliff that she can walk off of?
So yeah, and the intrigue from that whole 12 years, as you quite rightly say, it does sort of scream time jump, but there's also an awful lot of other things wrapped up in it. Obviously, part of the plan is that she will bear a son for Arathon, and very clearly a son. In fact, that almost tells me that it's preordained that she is going to bear a son in some, because they keep on talking about his grace of the child that's going to come from it, and what that means then for his lineage.
Do you think it's but she's already pregnant?
Yes,
she is. I'm confused by that.
So do we think that she's going to get pregnant again later, or is it?
Well, that's the impression that I got, that obviously he's only taking stewardship over this child that she's carrying at the moment, but actually over a 12-year relationship, it may be, because we get that hint even when they're in the hut that he could have surrendered in that way to her at that stage when they didn't really know each other, and they also obviously has had his memory or his impression of Alara changed through this crystal, and fact that she betrayed him or whatever it was, so he's sort of free in some way to explore a relationship at that stage. So it's an interesting one, because again, it's one of those prophesied things that is likely to happen, but there seem to be an awful lot of pawns still at play that can either change the outcome of that, or people will influence it in some way, whether that's Cossack or whether it's the Fellowship or Alara herself.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I did remember reading that about that Alara, Arathon thinks Alara sold him out at some point, but that was way up ahead in chapter 4,
but that was what was on the crystal, wasn't it? Not so when he picked the sliver of the crystal up and he got the memory, it ended. It was the end of that chapter, I'm pretty sure, where it basically said that he got the impression that Alara was sold him out, basically.
Yeah,
and that was a capture.
Yeah, it was in chapter 4 in Stonewall. That's when he thought that. So I'm not sure. Well, they were there for a while, I guess, hanging out. Yeah. So it's just it's so I'm really, really like, I really don't know where it's going, where Arathon's story is going at this point. Because it's just it's kind of hanging at this, stopping at the chapter 4. It's kind of hanging, and so you want to know what's going to happen next. But I did like how we got a little view of when Terrans was surprised that our friend Gentia from the earlier books married a bullheaded nephew of Alastron's warmongering duke.
Yes. I thought that was funny as well.
That was funny.
Severing engines.
Yeah.
It was almost implied, Jesus, what job did I do with her at all? If that's where she ended up, what control does a father have over his choice, his daughter's choice of partner? Yeah.
Imagine being a shade of the dead 200 years in the future and find out who your kids married, and you're like,
oh, for God's sake, no, not that idiot, not those broom-headed,
All my grandchildren are tainted.
My line, my poor line.
But sorry, just to go back to the Arathon's children part of it for a second. I kind of got the sense that it is still possible that the child that is coming in the spring could be Arathon's, which I'm not sure about because they didn't Cardamon tell Sethvir that she's already pregnant, which means like definitely not Arathon's.
Right.
But then Sethvir seems to be holding out hope that it could be, and
well, the initial part of that, I think, was when she went to be queried by the elders, or otherwise they weren't sure whose the father was, because obviously he was claiming ownership of it, so it could be his child that would do paternity when the child was born, but that he was going to take stewardship of it anyway to spur.
Yeah.
That was a confusion, but you're right. Like, it was Sethvir seemed to be indicating that possibly something could have happened with that. Maybe he just didn't see inside the cabin enough or whatever, but Sethvir can see everything. Well,
I thought so. I think they did sleep together. So theoretically it is possible, but also they said that she's already
3 days
pregnant.
or 3 weeks pregnant, whatever.
Yeah. So I was unsure about what might be going on there. Maybe there's some master bud stuff that happens if that like aura level the child is his or something. I don't know. Chibipo, you have an
Chibi's laughing at us.
Yeah, he's been doing that for a while.
No, she they didn't it's Vivette, basically it's an attempted rape on him.
Yes.
Which did not succeed, but she's playing on his guilt and whatnot.
And compassion, for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those areas that he's particularly vulnerable at, really.
Yeah. Well, there is that joke, isn't it, that Takar is sort of screaming in the wind, for the love of God, Aratham, would you just say no to one person for one time? Just make a sensible decision, for yourself. Be selfish just once.
Okay. In that case, I definitely don't understand why Arathon stayed, because I thought they went all the way, and that's why there is still a possibility that it could be his child, and therefore, he feels responsible. But
no, she played in this compassion by basically saying she was going to be put to death if she arrived back without somebody to take stewardship. The child would be killed, and she would be extricated from a society. So she played on his compassion there by basically saying, "You're my only hope here. You have to step up, otherwise this child will be killed or gotten rid of or something." And that stage, and in a lot of ways, like, what the outcome is for Arthur. Arthur can't walk away from that situation. It's just not in him, and as Saletti would have rightly have known.
I see. Yeah. Okay, then sorry. I guess let's just finish talking about this now. We don't have to do it for the chapters. But the Ilera and Sethvir's conversation, she seems to think that it could be Arathon. Yeah, I'm just confused by the whole thing. Like, they seem to imply that it could be Arathon's child, which I don't get. Anyway, maybe we'll find out more later. But
yeah, I'm wondering, there's going to be some sort of if Arathon ends up standing for this child and basically adopting it, does that count? Is that close enough to count towards the prophecies?
Well, yeah, I wonder if there's not something tied up in that, with clan lore, etc.
Yeah, it could be like a ritual of some sort, or magic ritual that ties them closer together than it would make him his actual heir,
But then the what they need, the compassion thing, right? Which is genetically transferred, or maybe I don't know, maybe there's an aurically transferred thing that they can do. I don't know.
Yeah.
If it's not genetically Arathon's child, how is there a possibility for it to be a potential successor that they can then I feel like that part of it needs to be true, right? For everything else to play out from there. But anyway, maybe there's something I'm missing.
No, that's the question. That is the question. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also thought they were also much more concerned, or not concerned, the wrong word, but they were wondering about the possibility of a further child through the 12 years of marriage. Because for that to definitely give a true heir for Arathon. But again, Sethler didn't seem to be worried about it, but it sort of indicated that child would be under Coriani control, though, because of the relationship of Vivette with Saletti and stuff. So that's the bit that I was a little bit. But Sethler seemed to think this was going to be a good thing. So I was like, right, okay, then that isn't a fear, if that makes sense. So I don't know that part. And I have to say, in general, this was when I started doing the audiobook, I was worried because you read it so closely and so carefully and reread passages, and I was like, I am bound to have mispicked things up probably much more frequently than I would have was reading. And I'm not sure. It's been an interesting experience, I think, to do the audiobook and taking it outside for a couple of chapters, which is why I did the last chapter sort of immersive, so that I could kind of compare.
Mm-hmm. And did you feel like you got more from the immersive read than just listening to the audiobook?
I don't know. I'm surprised how much I actually picked up off the audiobook, because the thing about this series, I think, in general, is that every small section gives you so much to think about. But because you're doing an audiobook, you can sort of think about it while you're reading it, and a lot easier than if you were reading it, if you know what I mean, because it takes so much sort of brain power to think about it while you're reading. So I found my mind wandering to implications, I think, a lot easier with the audiobook than necessarily just worrying about the moment-to-moment word and the reading of it, thinking about the events and what could that mean. So I think it's definitely an interesting experience, and I definitely think I'll continue to do a lot of this in audiobook, because it means I can take Wars Light and Shadow with me out in the road. On long walks and that kind of thing, which is very satisfying, I have to say.
It is,
Oh, wow.
I've been sort of listening to it during my hour daily that I get for listening to audiobooks, and it's been going great. There are some issues I have, which I think the audiobook or maybe the narrator's voice, it like dips and goes up, and it dips quite a lot.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot of audiobooks. I think that's bits where they re-record, or they overdub. They have a section and they decide to go over it, so it's the intonation changes slightly, the location changes slightly. But there are some minor mispronunciations or different pronunciations of the same character name, like Lysair and Lysair. Happens a few times and stuff, but like it's not so bad with him, because obviously we know who they're talking about there. But in some other cases, when you're just getting registered new characters, this is the problem I have with fantasy and all audiobooks. I need to know what that character's name looks like, so that I can kind of attach it, the word, to the character profile that I built on the head, or otherwise. So that's why I often go back and immerse read or something at that stage to get those names, so that I can then, when they say it, I can ascribe to what's happening.
Makes sense. Yeah, audiobooks been fun. I have had to reread some sections, like especially conversations, I think, because they, especially with fellowship sorcerers, they tend to be cryptic and referring to things that we're supposed to get. So I've had to reread those sections, but mostly it's been working out. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, where were we? I guess Terrence and
go
ahead.
Well, we get like I said, we got Jench's a little history of Gensia, and then we get in the news item, we get a little hint that somebody's trying to get in his lordship's household. And of course, we then figure out that that is the new Dace, the new
the squire. Very sword of stone, this part, I thought.
The new Daliana, yeah. And yeah, it's interesting. She's trying not to get into trouble while seeking a way into Lycea's service.
Yeah.
And then she kind of gets captured by the Lights loyalists there.
Yeah, so this bit's very interesting, Jared, because I think this is the first time we get to see that the Light or the True sect aren't Lycea aligned. In fact, they're very suspicious of Lycea, and they're trying to off Dace because it seems too close.
Yeah, he kind of rescues her in a way.
Yep.
And yeah, we're seeing this difference between them, and so that's interesting. And we started to see that that falling apart, previously, but now it's just the gap is getting wider. He doesn't like the way they go about things, the way they kind of terrorize people,
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Question. Sorry. The news item, it says that there was a destitute elder that I thought this was Dace, but then the elder threw me off. Did she pretend to be an older person so that she would get more pity?
Please to Black Boozer.
It's between 2 and 3, is it?
1 and 2, I think. Yeah, 1 and 2. The second news item.
Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering about the destitute elder.
Yeah, I thought it was Daliana's Dace until I saw the elder part of it, but maybe she was just pretending. Or
because the blonde aristocrat would be
Lycea,
right?
I thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the elder thing because I thought it was Dace in disguise.
The other one, the other possibility, I don't know why this would be a thing, is we know Traith is out somewhere and needs help. I thought it could be him, but then, yeah, why would he do that? And
yeah, there was quite a lot of people skulking out of corners and shadows and appearing in these 4 chapters. I thought not only like Vivette within the cottage. We had Cardamon kind of doing it later on to Yalera. We had, Dace doing it as Sim here. There was lots of people kind of doing like the big Dabian reveal from many books back with, I guess who's this guy? Yeah.
This eagle is actually cool. Entanglement. Wait, before that, also, the kid is alive, and Terrence is very relieved by it. They let him think that for a bit. I forget his name. Cadrian, yes. So he came back safe. The Fellowship Sorcerer sent him back. Like, you lost everything. No business being out. Now go back home.
Yeah, I like that whole. It's sort of undercut Taran's big, kind of reveal or kind of story to say, look, I've got the ancestor of your people deep within inside me. I know all sorts of stuff, and this kid's unfortunately dead. And oh no, he's not here. He is.
Yeah, let me put you out of your misery, you poor bastard.
It's like an old BBC TV show that used to be called Surprise, Surprise. Surprise, surprise. Here you go. Comes walking down the steps. You thought they were dead or you'd never see them again. This is your long lost son from your 14th marriage, that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow. Surprise, surprise. Okay.
Yeah. So ultimately, Dace succeeds.
Yes.
somehow, one way or another, through happenstance or circumstances, Dace succeeds in getting into Lycea's, becoming his position of his lordship's personal valet.
Yes. And I think it's worth saying, again, we get the impression that Dace has just been turned a man for ease of... I mean, I couldn't help but think of, like, Parable of the Sower as, like, the difference between a man going through the world and a woman going through the world. But there's lots of other things attached to it from Davian. I mean, this is referred to constantly throughout the chapters by the Fellowship and going, oh, that genius Davian. He did this and they didn't even know they were doing this. And, you know, it ultimately ends up to the confrontation that's going to come between Saletti and Davian and that kind of stuff as they try and realize who Dace is. Why can I not find Daliana? You know, why can they not scribe for, you know, and it's causing Saletti to go mad a little bit, sort of unravel, which is again referred to a few times.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they aren't able to find Ilera yet too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then she ended up... okay, we're not
there
yet.
Then they did, the True Sect did find her. And
yes. But, Chibi Boy, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, who's read Black Bargain?
I did.
By this point, because that's relevant to the whole thing with Dace.
Yeah, just give me. I don't care about spoilers. Oh, but maybe Chris will. But
yeah, I'll definitely read it. But
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
Well, so in Black Bargain, just the short version, takes place during the rebellion, and Davian contracts a guy who's in prison with an offer to be released from prison, provided he goes as Davian's personal spy in service to Moriel. And he shapeshifts him into the appropriate form, like one of those mute, witless dudes that she liked to keep around. And it's that guy because he's trying to recover the dragon skulls.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Wards, which that doesn't work, but it's that guy who, during the chaos of the rebellion, takes the case that contained the Waystone and drops it in a well.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is how it was waylaid, and misplaced, and they recovered it and returned it to Althane Tower.
Okay.
Oh, because that was way back. Yeah. Okay, I remember right now. Yeah, that's right.
Interesting.
Wow. That Davian, he's something else, huh?
Genius. He's went from betrayer to genius in a couple of chapters, because even Caradman and him start to see eye to eye.
Yes.
After the attack.
Yep.
It's all changed.
Yep.
They kind of.
And he has dragon fire abilities now. He can change reality by using dragon fire, kind of like dragons do. Is that right?
I missed that, I have to say.
I did not
know
that. I know there's a huge magic battle between him and Prime.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, I think he does use some Drake fire thing, and it's a new ability he has now because he's been living in that dragon's eye for a while. And Cardamon says, okay, if this is why you didn't go to help Asandir, that's fine, because like you'll definitely lose control. And it's like if you're still learning to work your abilities. And Davian's like, yep, that's why. It's true, but I'm glad you'll take that excuse.
Cool. Wow, the shade of it. Okay. Yeah, this force majeure bequest of, says Crochiels, is behind your feckless delinquency. Consider my grievance reproved. Your absence from the crisis at Northgate was justified.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty cool, though, that magical battle. And that he throws out this white fire met blue with a shriek and a cracked bedrock. That was pretty pretty awesome.
And it was sort of backed by this hubris that Celerity has in terms of, we've sort of dab in before, he'll be no problem in some ways, and then it totally backfires on her, which obviously was very very good to read.
The evidence of her hands notwithstanding.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Yes. I forget if we talked about this like during one of our off-screen discussions or during a previous discussion, but apparently Celody is still alive in inside Moriel / Celody. So she could come awake. Like Satvir and the others wonder whether Moriel / Celody is becoming unhinged now.
Yeah.
And they think it could be because Celody is coming awake inside of her. But yeah, there's also some amount of certainty that no, she's not going unhinged. She's doing exactly what she wants, and in some ways, she's as devious as Davian.
I mean, I was going to say she's been unhinged for about 8-9 books at this stage,
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I really like the beginning of in chapter 3. There's like this great symbolism of the vulture spiraling up on the thermals, and the I just thought that was a wonderful symbol of like this how vultures feed on the carcasses of things, like how this clan was kind of feeding on the compassion of Arathon, and how they were trying to take advantage of it. I just love that symbolism that she threw in there for that. And then she introduced a new word to me called frowsty, which I had never seen before. But I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay. That makes perfect sense.
It's always the perfect word for the perfect occasion. Yeah.
I'm just like, wow, I'm still getting stunned with new words even 10 books later.
Yeah.
So he's put into that agreement to be responsible for a child, and Alara sees all that. And of course, Dakar and Cossack and Terran are debating how to get Arathon, and Dakar did mention something about a past Prime's directive once had sought to turn Alara's affection against him. And I think he's referring to Moriel, and Dakar doesn't realize that Celody is the same person.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, so that was interesting that Dakar's not in on that. Like, he doesn't know.
Well, he's no Satvir. I mean, to be honest, again, this is one of the things I really like about the play between the Fellowship, because a lot you see throughout the books that a lot of the Fellowship, including us and Dear, go to Satvir almost to say, tell me what's happening right now, because I don't even know what's happening. We at the start of the book, I think it's like the Fellowship are all powerful, but it's Satvir is the person that watches the lanes and is able to see the world and the events that happen in the world, and then it sort of controls and said, right, I need you there, and does that kind of stuff. He sort of has the map. He's in Star Wars thing. He's got the big map of the world and says we need to do that.
Yeah, and then soon after that was the point you pointed out, Chris, earlier, was the damn it, Arathon, once in your life, be a bastard and scrap your ethics and fly into a rage. And the thing is, like, we've kind of been saying the same thing. Like, we want to see him just get mad and say no to somebody. And but
do something selfish. Just do something. Because the best bit is Arathon knows it's a terrible thing, that he desperately doesn't want anything to do with it, but he can't help himself.
He can't help himself. He checks his prickly temper and lets himself become shackled, and that's just his character. That's who he is, and we're all like, no, stop it.
The only thing I'll say is it's another case of Arthur just can't get to stay in one place for too long. The only time he's been able to stay in one place is when he was imprisoned. He's always on the run. He's always trapped. He's always, constantly,
Yeah. Yeah.
Poor Arthur.
He had a little bit of time when he was traveling around with Haleron. That was what?
Yes, it started
15,
when
20
yes.
years.
Oh yeah, that was
Started
fun.
ships. Yeah. When he was in disguise. Yeah.
That was probably the funnest time he had the whole series here.
About 300 years of existence. That was the most peace he had.
Yeah. 3 weeks in Benidorm. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then the Coriani leave the hatchet, a very dangerous artifact.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they also feel they try and get him to do something very directly, and then have to try and subvert his means, but they didn't exactly get what they wanted directly. They had to.
Yeah, he tells him to buzz off. And,
tells him to buzz off. Yeah.
And but they leave the thing behind, and it's like, oh, how can I help myself? I gotta check this artifact out, and that's like the Chekhov's gun or whatever that's called. You see a gun in that scene, it's gonna go off later.
Yeah.
Though, just from that scene that she's got to be getting desperate if she's revisiting something she's already done.
Yeah.
Because that was 100%, her repeating the attempt from the end of Warhost of Asmark.
Oh, right. Yeah. Where was it Dakar that jumped in the way of the arrow?
Yeah, with frenzy and trying to kill Earth with a spelled arrow.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's also like the other part of that is that everybody tries to convince Saletti that it'll be okay. She surrounded herself by these people, the people that won't stand up, and even she turned around and says, "Actually, no, this isn't what I wanted. How dare he?" And how dare people have free will? That was sort of the crux of that argument. Also, speaking of her desperation. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, there was some other interesting conversation. We haven't been in the room with Celery in these 4 chapters, right?
I don't.
Well, we're in the room when she is discussing, and then starts the fight with Davian, and then we jump to Davian's perspective.
Oh, that's right.
At that stage, but yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, we get a mention of one of the other dragons.
That's true.
Who was it that said? Somebody mentioned why Davian's not pursuing the reason for Chema Starog's absence. I think that's how you say it.
At North Gate, right? Is that the gate where the baby dragon showed up in the last book?
Yeah, and that one is the for the dragons as like the guardian of Northgate. And
okay.
Got it. Oh, there was also the thing about the ward of protection that Davian took from a piece of stone that he was, I guess, carving into a griffin, and he extended the ward. Now Caradmon can't leave because of it, because he did not. He hadn't carved, or he hadn't imbued it with permission to leave freely. No one can come in, and now you can't even leave. So Caradmon's trapped in there with him. I don't know what the implications of that will be. We haven't visited them yet.
Yeah, that's I have no idea what's going to happen there. No idea.
Yep.
And do we see at the section in Diversions, we've actually saw Lysaea relaxing a little bit? He actually had a carefree laugh when he was on the boat.
Yeah. He let loose and laughed one time.
And I was just like, oh. Is that because were they on salt water? Is that why he could relax a little bit?
What would salt water prevent? I don't remember. I
I don't
guess
know.
it
I
could
don't
be
know
any
if
crystals, but
that helps with the curse or something, or if it
maybe, yes, distance, right? Yeah.
I'm just wondering because he seems to be away from Marathon, and he rescued Dace, and Dace is recovering on the boat, and he's just having a great time.
Oh, that's right. And is this the section where he was planning stuff?
Yes,
Yeah.
he has
Okay.
a plan. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and I don't know if this was very pertinent to Chris or not. His self and Evan Stan love, where we find out that he had a pretty horrible ending.
Oh yeah.
Uh, he was comatose and was blinded and crippled with palsy
This
toward
is
the
this,
end of his
this
life.
is the proper hero's journey. The guy that does all the work that doesn't get any of the credit. This is what happens to those guys, not the guys with the blonde hair and the blue eyes who come out at the end and go, I am the light. No.
Yeah, I felt bad. I was just like,
Yeah.
wow, that poor guy.
Was this also the section where they go back to that same city where he went in with like such fanfare in Sulfin Evans' time, like throwing out laser beams, declaring his arrival, but now he's like, yeah, he just skulked into the city and just established himself, and then I guess he created a second faction to try and bring down the chiefs of the true sect and sort of failed at it, right? That's when he got shot with the arrow. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's hear about the barbed arrow to the eye. Jesus.
Yeah. The ensorcelled bolt to the eye.
Mm.
That's yeah. Then we got the new High Queen of Helvish in one of the news items.
Mm.
And she asked, will I meet the same end as my brother? So I don't know what's going to happen there.
And someone's like, I'm not going to lie, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Wait, so what was the thing that Hatchet had? What was the new thing they gave him?
An ensorcelled bolt.
Oh, that's what he used to kill the guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what he used to
Marilyn Vosmark again, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. And then an interesting little tidbit was the who was it? The Escanley clan.
Oh yes, yeah.
They were wondering why their seers, heightened prescience failed to forecast the ferocity of the assault upon them from these these true sect people.
Yeah.
And I was wondering that too, like what would cause the seers abilities to be trounced like that, not actually work.
You gotta imagine the bolt was wrapped up in Coriathian sorceress ship in some ways to do exactly that, because he has Scanly blood inside him, doesn't he? As well, I say. Well, certainly Daliana does. Well, the Evans definitely do, don't they? That's where they get their foresight from. But maybe Lysair. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But just.
And then the chapter entitled Debacle. What could go wrong in a chapter called Debacle?
Yeah. Well, that was the first thing in that chapter that I noticed. It was the failing of the seers to see this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And and then this, like, you still get that weird tension between the priest and Lysair continues. Then he gets shot in the eye with the ensorcelled bolt.
They're not going to save him because they want proof of his divination.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that which I thought was interesting. Again, this sort of combative relationship with Lysair now with the true sect. They're not really interested in him being the leader. They're sort of this is a secular matter. This is not a secular matter. Wasn't that the line that was there? And well, Lysair's going to be okay because he has the power of Davian's fountain to help him.
Mhm.
And again, that was brought up again. Another key important part is this kind of idea that Davian's lifelong promise to these people, their 500-year promise, actually has very strong regenerative powers.
Yeah, but Ascendare did say there's going to be some neurological damage.
Yeah,
and Base has to be prepared for that impact.
Well, but especially because they end up going, say, the neurological damage, he's going to be faced with his past essentially and try to make sense of it, and do that. So it's going to cause him problems. He's just not going to be able to write it off and kind of take a view from
taking
far.
years to recover, and and as far as the bit you mentioned with followers, as was predicted, your followers, will rule yours with a needy finality you will be unable to gainsay. Because
that's interesting.
He's established this, but they don't actually care about him. They just need him as a figurehead.
Yeah.
That's interesting that we have Lysair with possible neurological damage where he's not going to remember things. And of course, we have Arathon who had part of his memory wiped, not remembering things.
Yeah.
The parallel there is interesting to see what's going to happen.
And it's also brought up that he's sort of going to, this fight against the curse is going to be done without any sort of initiates training in it as well. So he's actually going to have this battle against the curse on very much rougher terms than Arathon had.
It's going to be worse for him than Keywar was for Arathon.
Right. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. But won't make it exactly the same point.
So he's going to go through Keywar and the memory loss, like both bad things that happened to Arathon in one go and over several years. Go ahead, Chris.
For me, what I was going to say is it sounds like he's going to need some help outside of that, whether that's through Alethiel or whatever else.
Yeah, I'm not genuinely not sure. I mean, it's going to be a harrowing experience. I don't know if I'd compare it to Keywar because I'm genuinely not sure if Lysair could actually manage Keywar.
Yeah,
but I think somebody, I don't remember who, said that it's going to be worse for him than Keywar was for Arathon.
It's like the very end of that little section. It's like the last line of that.
I think it was a Fellowship Sorcerer who said that.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's Sandir springs to mind, but
well, that's not good.
Spell Keywar WAR. Trying to find
Sephir.
Kewar,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's Sephir. So there you go.
Yeah, which fragmented mire of unfinished guilt post a trial more brutal than Davian's enspelled passage through Keywar.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the bit that ends is I'm jumping a chapter, but it's Alara's attempted capture and then rescued by Seth.
Oh, yeah.
Rescued by Seth there, yeah.
Because he's protecting the knife because the BDR people told him to. I was cool. Like, don't care about you. Don't care about Arathon stuff or can't care about Arathon stuff. But knife.
Yeah, but the knife's interesting because we got actually what the knife does or what it is used for. It's sort of origins, how far back it goes, kind of what it was used for before, and why it was brought back into the world and wasn't needed beforehand. So, and the other thing that we get of it is that it looks like Alara's going to have to use it, and she thought she was just going to pass it off to Arathon at a convenient time, but it looks like it's going to rest in her, just like it was her predecessor, Jessian. Jessian, that's the one.
Yeah. She I don't think I fully understood why she can't break the glamour that's on Arathon. Because she can do it from anywhere at any time. Does she need the knife for it? I thought she could just do it because she decided to, and
Yeah.
it's tied to her.
Because Seth Fair says, then if you could free him, why haven't you? And stunned, Alara looked up. What did she say? Because I have leave to use the bite a knife only once in my own behalf, never Arathon's. And because am I wrong? I both shaped and witnessed Takar's oath to the order of the Coriathane Aether. He invoked the debt to the crown of Rathane. Caramon's statement to me revealed Asendir's sworn release, made at Whitehall to discharge the obligation. That's very convoluted, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was some reasoning she had, like she wanted confirmation about whether the fellowship will help Arathon. At this point, I guess she's not sure of the specifics of whether or not they can help, and I think Sethway confirmed for her that she can't, that they can't interfere with anything to do with Arathon.
Yeah, she says if Vivette conceives to your acknowledged prince, if she bears an heir fit for the royal succession, then as long as that child breathes in this world, Arathon's fate would be freed from your fellowship's absolute terms. So that's why she hasn't freed him yet.
Yeah, okay.
Because she's hoping that his heir will free him from their terms.
Oh, she had the idea first and she asked Sethway to confirm it. It wasn't the other way around, right? Okay. And needs to be a male heir because of the terms of his grace.
Yeah.
Which
and it also Alara has this realization towards the very end of that chapter that actually Sethfair will only ever tell her what she requests. You know, he obviously knows more, so she starts to work out that if I ask the right questions, I will get the right help here. I think it's wrapped in the idea that, oh, he hasn't healed my ankle. He could have healed my ankle. Why didn't he heal my ankle? But I didn't ask him to heal my ankle. So it sort of kicks in this idea of, right, I need to request certain things, which is why she
they never volunteer info. You have to ask them.
Have to ask them. So she says, could I study and find more about the history of this thing here? And Seth, again, very humorous, was like, well, I mean, that stuff's here. Other stuff's not here, but that stuff's here. And I think, that'll make interesting reading,
Yeah.
And it'd be very rude of me to not let you read my books.
Well, in the first news item at the end of this chapter, somebody, who is it? Caramon? Or somebody says, yeah, we didn't tell her everything. We didn't reveal our damaging history here.
Oh, right. Yeah. That was, I was curious about that.
You lying old bastard, you. But
yeah, and then she's going to go to Davian at some point. I always love a good Ilera Davian conversation, so that should be fun when they meet again. I'm more excited for Davian and Ilera to meet than Arathon and Ilera to meet.
Yeah.
She tells him what's what.
Yeah. Yep. So
we didn't talk about that drinking match between Terrence and Cossack.
Oh yeah.
Didn't it get interrupted or something? Or
yeah, because Terrence had some vision.
Oh, he had a vision. That's right. Yeah.
What was the vision he saw again?
Oh, I don't remember.
I'm not sure that we actually got context for what it was. I remember reading it and going, but we don't know where he is or whatever it was at the time. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
But it did break up the
drinking game.
The drinking game, indeed.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Didn't seem like a good idea to get piss poor drunk when bad things are happening around them.
Yeah.
I guess that's how they settle scores. But...
Sounds like a solid way for me,
I'm ready to go anytime you guys are.
Yeah.
How much coffee can you drink? I can drink 1 cup. Yeah.
Oh dear.
I know. see if we missed anything else.
But the other things that we missed, this chapter I skipped over was Dakar delaying Cossack and everybody else to make sure Alara could get through
Oh yeah,
and escape the other side.
Oh
And
yeah,
again,
that's right.
being quite devious about it and whatever else, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't think we've really got into the meat and bones of that Cossack kind of Dakar Terran's relationship and what they're going to end up doing and kind of their whole purpose yet, and whether it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's interesting that all three of them have a similar goal, yet they also have their separate goals as well.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be interesting seeing how that interrelates and comes together and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, it was really cool how Dakar created a vision of like something that will happen in the future, but he sort of manipulated what Cossack could see in the resonance of the vision that he had, right? Of the clans being attacked. So Cossack's priorities changed. It's like, cool, he'll go that way. I'm gonna go this way to do my thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That Dakar, he's getting
Yeah.
that independent thinking Dakar is new.
Yeah, what the hell?
In this day and age.
It was always there, but he was just severely controlled by Asandir is what
Yeah.
we're learning, I think. Cool. Anything else before we wrap up?
Well, I'm just going to posit my theory that I told you the other day that I don't know what it means, but it did occur to me in those kind of stages when I was walking along and having room to breathe and think. It did occur to me, and it might mean nothing, but it did occur to me of a way that the Coriathian are sort of flawed in their makeup. So Thelly's at the top, but all of the Coriathian sorceresses are all of clan origin. They're literally every single one of them got from the clans because that's what she's worried about. And again, through clan rituals or rites or tying of earth into the land or otherwise, surely there's a way to subvert whatever the Coriathian are doing by their genetic and original birth. And it also brings up the question that, well, the crystals are probably from outside of Thera originally, but again, did they come from and were generated within the life souls generated within the clan kind of thing and tied to Previa in that kind of way? So lots of interesting stuff that we didn't know, like books 2, 3, 4, 5 even, but this kind of knowledge of where the Coriathian sorceresses came from and how they recruit and why they're desperate to have the clans back under control so they can basically steal your kids. It's dark.
It's dark.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting that the Coriathian all may have clan origins, which, and they are doing a lot of subversion of free will, which I think the Fellowship sorcerers can only stand by and watch for so long. The necromancy they cannot abide.
Yeah.
Which is what she did with some stuff that she did in the last book. So yeah, I'm not sure. I guess they'll start interfering at some point. They did let the Kraloweed people go on for a bit before they decided to interfere. So
yeah. And we've got the dagger to sort out any future necromancy. So, you know.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, I feel like Arathon has to kill destroy three kinds of necromancy. He did one. I don't know about the other two, but we know the Coriathian are practicing at least one form. So that I guess that will play a big role either in this book or I wonder if it'll be one of the climax events for the third one.
It's not really told about, and maybe it might have done and I haven't picked it up, but the Destair could be a form of necromancy as well. The actual curse itself.
Interesting, because they are all dead people, right? They are the wraiths.
Yeah. So that sort of throws an idea into my head. But anyway.
Yeah, fun theories. I like this.
I like that one, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Lots to look forward to. And we'll be reading the next 3 chapters for the next discussion, which will be 2 weeks from now. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon. Bye.